Alright, hello. So this is going to be a follow-up to the latest clay tutorial video. It's been a while. So in this video what we're going to do is first upgrade or update to the latest clay version. So let's go ahead and do that. And first, before we do that, let's remind ourselves what the application looks like, so you have the same if you're following along. We left off with this. So we just implemented all of the buttons, and all of the buttons are clickable. So we have the callbacks, which right now just prints the button name essentially. Yeah, so to update to the latest clay version, we navigate to the clay repo, which we cloned in the first episode. And what you do here is just git pull for the latest version. I have already done that. And what you then do is that you, however you want to do it, I'm gonna use the command line to copy. I'm gonna copy the clay.h, and we're also gonna copy the renderer file. So let's do that. Let's copy clay.h, and we're gonna copy it into the Mars rover control panel. Like so. So now we have the latest clay version in our project, and then I'm going to copy the renderers, and I'm going to copy the Raylib renderer. Let's have a quick look here in our project. Sorry, we're going to copy this file, the clay renderer raylib.c, and we're going to copy it into let's see, Mars rover control panel Raylib, like so. So now we have the latest clay and we have the latest renderer, and like so. And what I'm going to do for you is, or what I'm going to do is kind of go through what the major changes are, because I have already updated the project to work. And then you can either copy the file if you want. I'm going to provide a link to the file as it is with the updated clay code, or you can go through it and do it on your own. It's not that hard. So let me just check out the commit before. Let's see. I'm gonna check out the commit before this, like so. And then we're going to copy the files again. So copy renderer and copy clay, like so. And now we get a bunch of errors because clay has made some breaking changes since the last time. So the major change is that they have replaced these macros, like the clay layout, the clay rectangle macros. They have replaced those with a unified a mega struct for all of the layouts and that sort of stuff. So I'm going to just show you the button element and this element, how it's replaced. So let's comment this one out and let's keep it for the time. So this one will look like this. Instead now we do it like so, and then so there's a struct in here, and this struct will be this element declaration, which has a bunch of stuff. It has the corner radius, it has an image, and the layout and the ID, which we are interested in. So we're going to set the ID, the layout, and the background color. So let's do that. So ID is going to be clay ID, but this is not going to work because the clay ID no longer is able to take this non-literal string. So we could do like this, and this will work, but we want to pass our ID, which is the parameter. So instead what I'm going to do is take in an integer. Let's just take in an ID integer, and then we can use the macro IDI, which I guess stands for ID with an index, and we're going to pass the ID, second argument. So this then becomes button and then whatever integer we have, 0, 1, 2, 3. Cool. And next, so replacing the clay layout macro from here. Let me actually make this picture. So replacing the clay layout, instead what you're going to do is do dot layout equal to some struct. And we have the button layout configured, so we're just going to do button layout config. And rectangle is kind of replaced, so instead we say we have a background color, and this background color is going to be equal to this. Cool. And for the last one we also have the corner radius, which again is just inside this new element declaration struct. So with the corner radius equal to, and then there is this clay corner radius, which if we look at, just constructs this with all the same values, kind of like we did here before, but now instead we're using the macro for this, so 8. And then we have the callback. So they made a change. I'm not sure how this works internally, but if we copy paste this callback on hover thing like so, this won't work because now you're going to place it inside here instead, and then a semicolon, and the clay text remains the same as before, like so. So this is the new, for the latest clay version. That's how you convert. Relatively straightforward. We're also going to do the arrow button element, and I'm gonna leave the rest for you to do on your own, since I showed you how we did this. And if you don't want to do it on your own, I'm gonna provide a link to the code. Cool. Okay, so let's start. Clay, struct, scope, and ID is gonna equal clay IDI. It's gonna be arrow button ID, and ID is now an integer. We're gonna place a comma here, and continuing on, the layout is gonna equal whatever we had inside the clay layout macro before, like so. That all remains the same inside. And let's see, so we have the image. So this one is a bit different. We do image still, dot image, and then we have inside here image data, and that one is going to be equal to texture. And before we had the, let's see, we had a rectangle here, but instead what I'm going to do is create an outer element, which is going to be the colored rectangle, and inside of that I'm going to do the arrow element. Let's see, and this one then is going to be like so. This one here, this one is going to be the rectangle. ID, arrow button, outer, same number, same layout, and here we do the background color equal to, background color is going to be this value, like so, and corner radius is outside of rectangle now, or like and this one is going to be clay corner radius 8. Then we're going to have the clay on hover is going to be inside of here, with of course a semicolon. Oh, now this is indented like a motherfucker. Yeah. Let's see if we missed anything. No. So this is the conversion from what we had before. And then what you're going to do is kind of go through, replace all of these with the new way you do the layouts. And then one other big change is that instead, this is a change in the Raylib renderer. So before we had this Raylib fonts, which comes from, or no longer, but it came from this file. But now if we go into, let's see what this function is called, here. So now instead this Raylib render function takes in the fonts. So we have to provide the list ourselves. So we're going to do that by doing a fonts array. We're going to do 16. And then our insert font is simply going to take in this array. And we use that array instead here, fonts. And so we don't have to do, we don't have to do this. We can just access the texture and we can just assign it directly here. And now this function, of course, takes in the fonts. Oh, fonts. Oh, I fucked up. Fonts. Cool. And down in this clay Raylib renderer, we now pass in the fonts, like so. And now it's happy. Let's see. And yeah, so this when we set the measure text function now, we also pass in the fonts array. Yeah, let's close that down. Cool. So now all of this works. Let's see. Yeah, so now the only remaining changes to update completely is inside this build the layout function, where you would do converting these to not use clay layout and clay rectangle, but instead use this new way of specifying dot layout equal to the layout struct, and then using background color and corner radius instead. Cool. So if you do that, I'm going to check out my done version. There we go. So this is the finished version, same here, but here I have replaced, so this from earlier became this became this, etc, etc. And if we now, so if we now build this instead, it's going to be a while since it's a lot of new code. There we are, and if we run it, we have the same application as before. Cool. So if you do that, I'm going to provide a link in the description to this code, the converted version to the latest clay. You are up to date and ready to keep on following along. And as a teaser, I'm going to show you what we are going to do in the next version, or the next part. Let's see, this commit is the next part. So in the next part, we're going to start implementing the Lunar Lander game, or I guess we should call it something else. I'm going to call it Lunar Lander in the code, but it's going to be Mars Lander, I guess, Mars rover. So if I run this, we're going to create this game window, which this is all entirely like Raylib rendered code inside a render target, a render texture. And we're going to generate a terrain, which we are later on then gonna pass in some sort of lander that you control for all of these buttons. Cool. So I'll see you in the next part, which is going to be part 6. Bye bye.